$10 per ton. Statistics Canada reported on Friday that Canada's gross domestic product shrank by 8.2% in the first quarter of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That made for the largest decline in the country's economy since the economic crisis of 2008. Canada's Parliamentary Budget Officer has estimated the federal deficit could top $260 billion due to the government's efforts to stimulate the economy during the pandemic. Continued strength in the Canadian dollar tempered gains for canola values this morning. The Canadian dollar was around 72.6 US cents. The Chicago soy complex was weaker on Friday. China could back away from the Phase 1 trade agreement. The Chinese government issued a warning on Friday, and U.S. President Donald Trump is scheduled to make a statement later today about possible repercussions for China because of its new national security laws for Hong Kong. This morning, the USDA reported a private export sale of 132,000 tons of soybeans purchased by China. Last week, soybean export sales totaled 644,000 tons, which was 47% lower than the previous week. It was also 27% lower than the prior 4-week average. The July soybean contract is down 7 cents at $8.40 per bushel. July soy oil is down by a fraction of a cent at 27.3 US cents per pound. May soy meal is down $1.90 at $282 per hundredweight. Corn futures were weaker on Friday morning. Last week, corn export sales totaled 427,000 tons, which was down by over 50% from the previous week and 58% lower than the prior 4-week average. The July contract is down 4 cents at $3.23 per bushel. Wheat futures were stronger this morning. Last week, export sales totaled just under 210,000 tons, which was up by 19% from the previous week. Chicago July is up by 2.5 cents at $5.17 per bushel. Kansas City July wheat is up 3 cents at $4.67, and Minneapolis spring wheat is up 2 cents at $5.21 per bushel. That's a look at the ICE futures and the Chicago markets for Friday morning, May 29th. For Markets Farm in Winnipeg, I'm Marlo Glass.
Spring is here, and the drive is on for savings. Get up and running today during New Holland's Spring Drive sales event from Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John. Find great deals and special savings featuring 0% financing and cashback offers on New Holland tractors, from compacts to high horsepower models and everything in between. Save on select New Holland hay tools, too. Call Butler Farm Equipment at 250-785-1800 today, because just like Spring Drive savings won't last long.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Moose Talks. It's a very special day because we just have one guest today. It's Superintendent from the School District 60, Peace River North, Stephen Petrucci. We're going to be talking about students going back to school next week. Stephen joins me now. How's it going today, Stephen?
It's going well, Warren. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for taking some time out to chat with us. I know it's probably a very busy day and week and month for you to kind of get everything ready to go for Monday and Tuesday when the students come back. So for people who don't have children in the school system, they maybe didn't get the letters that have been sent out regarding how things are kind of rolling out next week. Can you give us kind of a brief overview of how kids are returning to school? What's that going to look like next week?
Okay, it's part of what the government's calling their restart plan for the province, and included in that plan is the specific targets for the education system, and it's called Stage 3 Startup. And what it entails is basically part-time attendance throughout the system, with about a 50% density at the elementary level, K to 5, and a 20% density from grade 12. In practical terms, what this will mean is a small group of K to 5 elementary students attending 2 days a week, and then a separate group of kids from those same grades at the other 2 days of the week. And right now, School 60 is set up kind of day to more of a and remote learning day for the teachers. And then Tuesday through Friday is where most of our students will be attending on a part-time basis. So for K to 5, that'll be about 2 days a week. And grades 6 to 12, they'll have an opportunity to about 1 day a week.
I see. Is it the same kind of length of day they would have had we not kind of changed everything for the pandemic, or is it less of a day even? Has that changed at all, or is it just the number of days they're attending per week?
Yeah, it's the same length of the day as in the past, so it's the full day. But instead of being 5 days a week for the kids, for most of them it will just be 2 at the elementary level and 1 at the middle and secondary.
I see. Okay. Now, is this? It's essentially it's kind of like half capacity, right? You're taking half the students in Group A for 2 days a week at the elementary level, and then the other half, the other kind of day. But are you expecting that it's going to be like full attendance, or do you have any like kind of a notion of how many students and parents are going to opt to stay at home and kind of continue remote learning at this time?
Yeah, we do. It's between 50 to 60%
Okay.
of the parent population that it looks like will be sending their kids back. So in other words, we're talking about relatively small numbers of kids in terms of this part-time model. I should go back, though, Warren, to kind of the beginning in terms of, why is this happening in the first place? And so I talked about us being part of the BC restart plan for the province. But I think it's also important to mention for your listeners that we're being told that this restart plan is important. It has to happen because, number one, it's safe to do so. So the public health officer, Dr. Henry, has basically laid out these guidelines and has said, based on this plan that we have for density and alternating attendance, it is safe for people to go back to school. So that's number one. And the second thing is that the other reason this is important to do and continue to do is because we're supporting many vulnerable students who are already in our schools right now. We had up to 600 last week that were already in the schools, and those are students that absolutely need to have some in-person instruction and some support in the schools, along with the continued service we've been providing for some of the children of emergency support workers. So just to kind of remind everyone that it's safe to do so with very strict health and safety guidelines, and our students need this.
Okay, absolutely. We'll be talking more about those guidelines a little later. For the people who are opting to stay home, or is the delivery of course materials changing at all, or is that going to be the same for them for the kind of the final month of the school year?
So across the district, it varies by grade level, of course, in terms of some of the remote learning that they've been doing. And so as you can imagine, for example, if I start at the secondary level, many of the teachers were already using a fair number of online tools in terms of sharing their documents via Google Drive and that sort of thing. They will continue with the remote learning plan that they have with some on-site at the school. And so they're using sort of tutorials and seminars for kids and supporting them, but the sort of scheduling and the process is still related more directly to the remote learning plan that was in place. At the middle and elementary level, it's going to be more about, some in-class instruction. And it's important for people to know that maybe that level of remote instruction, as well as the number of contacts, may have to be reduced. Because as you can imagine, Warren, the teachers are now also doing in-class instruction. They're planning for that, but they're also trying to serve about half of the students who will be staying home. And so that level of learning is definitely going to decrease.
Yeah, as they juggle kind of all these things at once. Given that, and you've mentioned this several times already, it's kind of this is happening on a provincial level, reopening schools. As you said, it's safe to do so because the public health officer has said it's safe to have students go back so long as these orders, these cleanliness, sanitation, PPE, whatnot orders are followed strictly. How much is up to you on a district level as to how things are sort of done? Is there a lot? Was there a lot of room for you to make decisions, or has it all been guidelines that you're following provincially to the letter, and you kind of just have to implement them the best you can with, in regards to the different situation it might be here as compared to, say, a school district in the Lower Mainland?
Yeah, it's a question. I would say at this level now with stage three, there are sort of more detailed guidelines. And the objective there, which is completely understandable, is to have more consistency across the province in terms of how stage three is rolling out. I think you've probably seen the documents for stage three where they talk specifically about 2 to 3 days per week for K to 5 with that 50% density, and then 1 day a week with 20% density for 6 to 12. How it looks specifically on the ground in terms of scheduling from school to school, district to district, can, as you can imagine, can vary. However, those density targets and the days per week will look very similar across the province. Similarly, the guidelines are very specific. And in that context, that's going to look similar across every school and across every district. And they're quite strict, and we have health and safety committees at every site that are reviewing those guidelines, making sure their facility is set up for those guidelines, and posting that safety plan for everyone to see and for everyone to follow. So, for example, every school have a day custodian as well as an evening deep clean. So there's going to be cleaning throughout the day. We will have an isolation room at every school where if a student or a staff member starts to feel ill, there's going to be a very specific protocol in terms of isolating that person, connecting with the family, connecting with public health. There's sanitation stations throughout every school, throughout the shared facilities use rooms, such as the photocopying room or the room. There's limits to the number of people that can be in any open spaces. So these are going to be very consistent and are very specific across the province. And it's the only way that we can sort of make sure that this is as safe as possible.
This has come up a couple times in our conversation already. Local MLA Dan Davies wrote a letter to the Education Minister, imploring the government to do more to support districts and teachers in acquiring PPE for classrooms. Now, you've already said the public health officer has said it's safe to do so under these conditions. PPE isn't necessarily a part of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I imagine there's a number of different sort of opinions and rightfully so across even Canada, from province to province and health officer to health officer. There's some different recommendations around PPE and a number of other things. So we know that there's a diversity of thought out there. We go off of what the C public health officer tells us is appropriate, is safe to do, and we follow those guidelines. So I can't really speculate the other sort of recommendations that are out there.
Is this going to be something? Sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
Sorry, what I can is to confirm in the HO, the public health officer guidelines for this restart plan, there is no requirement for everyone to be wearing PPE. To be clear, any staff member or student that wants to wear a mask, that's no problem. They're welcome to do so. But it's not part of the PHO guidelines.
Okay. And that isn't something that the district's going to provide for students or staff who maybe want to wear that. That they'd have to take care of that themselves, I assume, hey?
That's correct, Warren. I imagine that you can you would see that, for example, the health sector is still desperately trying to ensure that they have enough equipment for their frontline workers. There's shortages across the country, but we have enough supplies for all of our cleaning. We're going to be able to follow the guidelines, but PPE is not part of that, and the health sector priority, I believe, in that regard.
Okay. Now, again, we've talked a lot about the cleaning and sort of sanitization so far. How prepared were you for this? I know businesses, and it's different, obviously, but businesses feel in some ways that everything happened very fast, and some of them maybe weren't as prepared as they would have liked to be able to reopen this week and next week, given the guidelines that the government provided. How are you feeling in terms of the schools and the district level? Was this something you were ready for or able to do in order to open on next week? Or was it a scramble to kind of get everything ready to be able to open?
Yeah, good question. We've been working through this for a while now. To be clear, our schools were never sort of officially closed. So the time crunch that the businesses are facing now, we sort of went through that towards the end of March and the beginning of April. So the more substantial elements of the health and safety plans and the sanitization plans and the cleaning plans were already in place. So we've had most of our staff already on site. We've had many students already on site for the last several weeks. So it was more about tweaking these most recent guidelines with bigger populations of people coming into the schools. But in terms of the infrastructure of the cleaning and of the supplies and of the procedures, we were mostly there. Okay. And these final guidelines was the last piece of the puzzle that we had made adjustments for.
And had the government provided any sort of warned you that this was coming? Like, did you expect that students would be asked to come kind of back to school in general before the end of the year, or were you expecting that to kind of remain closed until the fall? Or not closed, but remain mostly, have a smaller student population for the rest of the year, I should say.
Yeah, so from the very beginning, Warren, the terms that were used and what we followed was that in-person instruction was suspended. Mm-hmm. And from the very beginning, the BC provincial government let us know that it was always possible that they were going to turn the dial one way or the other. Mm-hmm. In other words, it could have gone the other way. If the curve had not been flattened, we could have gone back to zero in-person interactions at our school. But they always let us know from the beginning that dial could also be turned up in terms of some return classes for schools. So we knew it was a possibility, but until the official announcements made sort of a week and a half ago, we didn't know. But at that point, we started to plan for it and knew that it was always a possibility. As you know, also, even though these things can change quickly, the Northern Health Region, has some specific data. I don't know that CDC dashboard, Warren, where currently, for example, we have, I believe, 2 active cases that they're aware of. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there will be more than that out there, but I think we're also trying to stay in with the specific risk factors by region as well. And so far, not only across the province, but in the Northern Health, I think people have done an excellent job of following the guidelines and keeping that curve quite flat.
Absolutely. All right, Stephen. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We got some more questions and things to discuss right after this on Moose Talks. Ernie's Sports Experts Fort St. John is open to serve you. Check out their specials on all clothing. 25% off, 20% off sunglasses, and get a free gift card of up to $75 with the purchase of a bike. See details in store. Get ready for the outdoors at Ernie's Sports Experts, Totem Mall. Open Monday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., closed on Sunday. Visit Ernie's Sports Experts on Facebook.
Everyone struggles with computers. New shortcuts, plug-and-play devices that don't play when you plug them, and more. Sit back and learn some stupid computer tricks with Vern from Computer Emporium across from the Northern Grand Hotel on 100th Avenue in Fort St. John.
In the spirit of recycling, today's column is to advise you to use your old hard drive from that broken laptop you have sitting around as a USB external hard drive. A few screws are all it takes to remove the hard drive from your old laptop. Just turn your laptop over and look for the access door covering the hard drive. Remove the screws and gently remove the hard drive from the dead laptop. Then head out and buy an inexpensive hard drive enclosure. An enclosure is an empty hard drive shell with a USB cable attached. Mount your old hard drive in this enclosure, and now you have an external hard drive. Use it as a backup drive, use it to move files around, and so many other uses. I use one of mine to hold all of my music. Then I connected it to my Xbox, and I use that to play my music through my home theater package.
Stupid computer tricks with Vern from Computer Emporium, helping you use computers more efficiently. Is heard Monday to Saturday on Moose FM.
Hi, Vern here from Computer Emporium. The advantage of seeing us about your computer needs rather than a box store is we understand your needs, your language, and your budget. We will help you find the right solution and talk in a language that you can understand. See the professionals at Computer Emporium, helping you use computers more efficiently.
Prevail Athletics is proud to announce that Reflex Supplement is now open for business in the newly renovated Prevail Athletics. Ask their knowledgeable staff how to get started on a healthy way of living. Add daily supplements to your workout and feel the difference. Choose from a wide selection: Magnum, Mutant, BioX, Animal, Perfect Nutrition. Start the new normal with a healthy body. Reflex Supplement in the Prevail Athletics gym. While you're there, check out the new Prevail Athletics clothing line and gear bags. Follow them on Facebook.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? With the help of Dunvegan Gardens. Veggies and herbs are so tasty when they're fresh. Blueberries, raspberries, and apple trees not only add to your look, but also add to healthy eating upon harvest. Let the experts at Dunvegan help you turn your garden and yard into a backyard paradise, a place that you can disappear and enjoy. Draw in hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees to your world. Dunvegan can even show you how to get your children involved in gardening. Stop in or shop online at dunveganfsj.ca.
At Peace Pharmacy, we help you save money by giving you the best service at competitive prices. If you need a prescription filled, have home health care needs, or just have a question for our certified staff, we have you covered. For fast, friendly service, visit Peace Pharmacy beside the ABC Medical Clinic on 101st Ave.
Hey, you have a chip on your windshield.
Ugh, that's nothing.
No, that is something. What if it starts to crack?
Nah, it won't.
Are you gonna listen to me now?
Yeah, I learned my lesson.
Get your windshield fixed at Alaska Highway Auto Glass. Chips, cracks, full windshield replacements, they do it all. Alaska Highway Auto Glass. The crack stops here. 250-785-0032.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca.
We're back on Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. We're talking to Stephen Petrucci, the Superintendent of School District 60 this morning, as schools are back for in-classroom teaching as of next week. Stephen, we've been talking about what's been happening a lot, but I wanted to touch on this quickly. Concerns from teachers, parents, and students, given all the information that's come out about how the rollout is going to be, how things are going to look when kids come back to school next week. Are there any kind of concerns you've heard a lot of that you've had to allay that maybe you want to address here quickly?
Well, I think just to acknowledge that for all of us, as well as the general public, that anxiety is out there. For weeks now, we've been hearing from the PHO basically stay home, and which can feel contradictory to what's happening right now. But it's about going on the information that the PHO is now providing, basing it on as much as possible the science and the facts that we know, but also to acknowledge that fear is out there. In many ways, it's a pandemic of fear as well as of a virus itself, and we need to acknowledge that. So we've actually had several sessions that have been organized and have been well attended virtually around dealing with anxiety for staff. We've had our counselors involved in some sessions, and our union partners through the BCTF and CUPE both have programs and supports available to their members to help work through some of this. And so, whether you're a teacher, EA worker, facilities worker, administrator, senior staff, all of us have some anxiety related to this, and that's normal. But the good news is that we do have some supports and some strategies, and we've been working with staff to help to allay some of those anxieties. And in some cases, Warren, members of our staff, due to various reasons, we'll be going through an accommodation process with them. So, for example, if there's some underlying medical conditions, or they're immunocompromised, or their age can be a factor, they've had recent cancer treatments and those sorts of things. Our human resources are working with those people so that there will be, a small number of staff that will be staying home and will not be coming into the school.
All right, and I suppose in those instances, if it's a teacher, for example, those students know that that's going to happen. Is in that case specifically, is there options for parents or students who are like, I still really want to be able to do the in-class learning in spite of the fact that maybe the teacher is unavailable? Have you been able to accommodate or had to accommodate anything like that?
Yeah, that's kind of been part of the planning process, and that's our school principals have been literally working from dawn to dusk this past week to mitigate those very issues. And so there will be enough personnel. I can tell you that there will be staff on site, definitely, for those kids that will be there. In a few cases, it may not be their same classroom teacher in person. However, it's quite possible those remote learning experiences and connections are still going on with the regular classroom teacher as well. So schools do have contingency plans for that small number of staff that will not be attending on site.
Okay. And now, I imagine this will be a difficult question to answer, but looking ahead to the fall, we're still months away from that. Things could be very different by then. There's lots of kind of questions up in the air for people in general about what the fall's going to look like for schooling. Do you have a sense of what education's going to look like in the fall? Is it going to be the same? Are you hoping or kind of planning for perhaps a return to more normal, kind of the way things were before, or are you expecting it to be much like this month is going to go similarly, except maybe with, if there happen to be issues with them sort of ironed out? What do you think?
Yeah, and I understand asking the question. I'm afraid I don't have a crystal ball. What I can tell you is that yes, at the district level, we've been already talking about various contingency models and plans for September. Right now, the province's plan and desire is to come back at sort of what they're calling stage one, which is full attendance. We would love to see that as well. I mean, we would love to have all of our kids back and staff in a more sort of regular or normal situation for September. That is officially what they're aiming for. But as the PHO has pointed out, if the event changes, if the transmission rate curve changes, I think we now have enough experience with what we're doing, and that's partly also why we're sort of testing this out in June, is we have enough experience to be able to dial forward or dial back the education modeling for the fall, and in fact adjust to that as the year goes on. To be perfectly honest with you, it's not something we would want to do on a regular basis. This is in a sense, it's our third startup this year, and that's an incredible amount of time and energy and resources for our leadership team, our principals and vice principals and staff to be constantly for.
Okay, so hope for a return to phase one, but we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to leave it at there, Stephen, for today, but thank you so very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to talk to us today. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man.
All right, Stephen Petrucci, the Superintendent of School District 60. We'll be right back to wrap things up right here on Moose Talks.
Action Property Management knows that home is where your heart is. And because of that, we've made it our mission to make sure that if you need a home in the beautiful Peace Country, we have the one that fits your needs perfectly. Whether you're looking for furnished or unfurnished, month-to-month leases, single living places, or a place for your whole family, pets, and all, Action Property Management will find your next place to call home. For a list of all our rentals available and an application to get started, check out our website at actionproperty.ca or see our listings at our office across from Totem Mall.
At a time like this, M&M Food Market would like to remind you, we're all in this together. We know you're worried, but one thing we don't want you to worry about is feeding your family. M&M Food Market remains open during this time and has plenty of frozen food options for you to stock your freezer so you can enjoy meals at home. And, as always, all M&M food is prepared with care. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay fed with M&M Food Market, making real food for real life. Visit mmfoodmarket.com.
Hi, this is Jen with Oscars, reminding you, in addition to being your first choice for disposal and recycle bins at your office, shop, or residence, we also offer portable toilets, combo trailers, light towers, and all sizes of larger roll-off bins for your pipeline, facility, or construction project. Core certified, locally owned, and always going the extra mile to make sure you get the great service you deserve. Call us today, 250-785-8158, serving Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, and surrounding areas.
If you're looking for hassle-free internet services, call the Peace Region Internet Society today. With coverage throughout most of the Peace, PRIS can get you connected quickly without the hassle of contracts or bundles. Visit PRIS.ca or call 1-800-768-3311 for more information.
For all your gravel hauling, contaminated waste, low beds, and graders, Rogers Trucking can meet your needs. Call them today at 250-785-3647.
Think you deserve a free sub from Quiznos? Then download the Quiznos Toasty Points app. Scan the barcode on the receipt and get a free small sub with any purchase. The Quiznos Toasty Points app. Download it today. It doesn't get better tasting than Quiznos, beside Walmart.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Our thanks again to School District 60 Superintendent Stephen Petrucci for finding some time to talk to us today. And thanks to you for your questions you had on our Facebook page, both before this and during the show, that inspired some of the things I asked him about. And I apologize that I wasn't able to get to all of them. If you missed this episode, or if you'd like to rewatch it again, it will be available shortly on the Moose FM and energeticcity.ca Facebook pages. You can also listen to the podcast anytime at energeticcity.ca/Moose Talks. Moose Talks is produced by Adam Rayburn. I'm Dub Craig. Until next Friday, be well.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.
100.1 Moose FM.